Hi everyone, welcome back. So let's start our Aeon Essay, which is freedom at work from where we left yesterday. So I guess we need to start from here, this new series. Most workers do not have the power of choice at work. Rather, that power resides exclusively with their bosses. So let's see what the first paragraph hold for us. Already then, we can see that Kant gives us a preliminary philosophy of work with his distinction between art as skill labor and nature. Skill labor is essentially purposive. The product of our labor is based on a purpose, and this purpose makes possible the product in a way that nature could not. To identify human labor with purposiveness is to highlight the importance of thinking in the labor process. Unlike the animal, for whom labor is a mere effect of nature, human labor is a product of thinking and acting in coordination with each other. The more our thoughts and plans are reflected in the product of our labor, the more human our labor is. So this passage is describing about the perception, what the actual meaning of the skilled labor, how they are different from the animals who are the natural labor. So the title of this passage is Who Are Skilled Labor. So what we can take from here is that the first line is that skilled labor is essentially purposive. The product of our labor is based on purpose and which makes the possible the product in a way that brute nature could not. Means the nature is not able to create that thing which we have ability to create that. And let's see what we can other take from here is that this line as well. The human labor is a product of thinking and acting in coordination with each other. That we can take. Let's moving toward the next passage. This insight has deep implication for the question of what makes work good, especially in light of capitalism's division between the planning and execution of labor. In capitalism, most workers are permitted to execute only their bosses' purpose at work. They themselves do not determine what purpose to execute. Using Kant's language, we might say that most workers do not have power of choice at work. Rather, that power resides exclusively with their bosses. This makes many workers mere animal at work, since what is produced is not based on any rational deliberation of their parts. So, while the labor is capitalism is determined by some purpose, that is the bosses. It is importantly not the worker's purpose. So this passage is saying that how the purpose of the product is not the based on the what the workers wants, but it's completely based on what their bosses wants from them. What the product their boss want. It's not the product what the labor willingly gives, but it's totally depend upon their bosses. So the title of this passage is The Purpose of Labor by Their Bosses. So what we can take from here is so it's also one of the indication of the good work. What the good work is called is that the work is assigned by the bosses to their workers is termed as a good labor. So that's the explanation given here is that. that the workers do not determine what the purpose to execute. And by using the Kant's word says that the power of choice at work, that workers do not have that power of choice at works. The power resides exclusively with their bosses. That makes many workers mere animal at work, just like nature, where the bees don't have any choice except constructing honeycomb. Like the same, when the purpose is given by the bosses to their labor, they are merely they are considered the same as that animal at work. So it says that labor in capitalism is determined by some purpose. So it's not even considered as a good job, because where your idea, your interruptions, your voice is not here. So let's moving toward the next pieces. Take a look at some of the more prominent theories of good jobs, and you will be hard pressed to find any reference to purposiveness. This is because a modern organization of work is so thoroughly structured by this division of labor into purposive planning by management on the one hand and brute execution by worker on the other, that it is often taken for granted. The strictness of this division may vary by workplace, but the very idea of management presupposes the category of planner and executor. Yet, here we see that such an organization of work prevents many of us from exercising our distinctly human capacity for purposive activity, making our work feel constrained and mechanical rather than free. So this passage is saying about what the work culture in today's organization, what work culture today's organization follows. So the title of this passage is Work Culture in Modern Organization. So let's see what the important points we can take from here is that strictness of division may vary by workplace, but the very idea of management presupposes the category of planner and executor, who is planning this whole work things and who is executing is also important in the management, which is the main matters here. And that's why it means we can call it that animal structured work place where they don't have choice. It's completely depend upon who's the planner and who is the executor. That we can take from here is that one another thing that it says that a look at some of the more important prominent theories of good job and you will be hard pressed to find any reference to purposiveness. So if you're just looking about the example of the good job, it is very hard to find the purpose. Is that the workers really have purpose to do that work, or is just merely doing the job which is assigned to him by him or by their bosses? And why it's so? Because in the modern organization of the work is so thoroughly structured by this division of labor into purposive planning by management, or on the other hand, the brute execution by the workers on the other. It's just like it's completely division of the work is divided by the management, higher authority, without the consent of what the really lower hierarchy of workers wants. It's just they want their work to be done, that's it. They really don't care about the labor process. So let's moving toward the next species. Within the domain of things produced through human efforts, Kant makes a further distinction between things that can be produced merely by following pre-given rules and those that require some kind of judgment or creativity. Kant called the former scientific and the later technical. Art as skilled labor is technical. He continues, art as human skills is also distinguished from science, that is, we distinguish can from know. As practical from the theoretical ability, as technique from theory, that is, art of surviving from geometry. This is exactly where we refrain from calling anything art that we can do the moment we know what is to be done. That is the moment we are sufficiently acquainted with what the desired effect it is. Only if something, even the most thorough acquaintance with it, does not immediately provide us with the skills of make it, then to that extension it belongs to art. So here the Kant is trying to explain the another definition of the art through his poetic lines. So what we can take, so just deep down this is what it's trying to say, that within the domain of things produced through human efforts, Kant makes a further distinction between the things that can be produced merely by following pre-given rules and those that require some kind of judgments and creativity. So he is trying to create a difference between the things which is created merely by some given rules, that this is the steps and rules, you need to just follow that steps and then you will get that product, and the another things where your judgment and creativity is required. So he's trying to distinguish between the two things, and which he call it formally a scientific and technical. He says that art as a skill labor is technical. It's not a scientific, it's a technical. No, it's formally called it scientific. Now it's called technical. Why it's called technical? So let's once more read his whole poem. Art as human skill is also distinguished from science. He says that the art as a human skill is different from science, as practical from theoretical ability, as technique from theory. He says that whatever just you read about anything, that this thing is happened through this. When you theoretically read it, but in reality, when you execute is completely different, and that's called its technique. That is exactly where we refrain from calling anything art that we can do to the moment we know what is to be done. The moment we are sufficiently acquainted with what desired effect means, whatever means you are reading. So how to make toffees. So that then you just read about the step and everything. But when you're putting your action in doing that, you already just visualizing the end result. So that's called the art. You just putting your all efforts to things work in that way so that you get that what you want. Even though even the most thorough acquaintance with it does not immediately provide us with the skill to make it, then that extent is belongs to art. Means sometimes you don't have skill. Means you earlier didn't make any toffee, you don't have any toffees factory, but you learned that thing because you want to do that. So that skill is called art. Nobody is forcing you to do that. That's why it's saying that. So let's reading this another passage. Art is distinguished from science because in order to engage in artist production, we need more than a theoretical understanding of what we are trying to produce. There is a gap between knowing what is to be done and our actual ability to do it. art, in other words, involves productive indeterminacy. So author is trying to say that there is a distinction between science in order to engage it in artist production, because we need more theoretical understanding of what we are trying to produce, and there is a gap between knowing what is to be done and our ability to do it. That is art. Means you know how to produce anything, but do you have that capability? Do you have everything? Do you have that skills to do that? That's called art. So moving toward the next passage, Kant's idea that art is productively indeterminate is a consequence of his claim that there can be no objective rule of taste, no rule of taste that determined by concept what is beautiful. For our painter, this means that the process by which she paints something beautiful cannot be codified in rules. Rather, she must use her genius, Kant's term for art, talent for producing something for which no determinate rule can be given. So here, what Kant is trying to say that what is actually an art, how you judge art. So he says that there can be no objective rules of taste, no rules of taste that determine by the concept what is beautiful. That there is a no rules and regulations, that you can't impose anything. That's it's beyond anyone's imaginations. That actually art. For the painter, whatever she can paint, that something cannot be codified in the rules, that while painting something means a beautiful lady, so there is no rules and restrictions that you can't make her wear this dress, this makeup is not legal to use. That's there is no rules. That's our inner imaginations. So that's why he said that whatever she used, that painter used a genius, that term as talent for producing something for which no determinate rule can be given. And no rules can be given for any arts. That's your creativity, that's your imagination only. So let's moving toward the another series, next series. As Kant might say, even the most thorough acquaintance with the manual does not immediately fix the bike. So let's see what this series hold for us. So let's starting with the first passage. At first glance, the art-science distinction does not seem relevant to the question of work. Composing the electrical wiring of a home can be taught by rules in a way that composing a beautiful poem cannot. Perhaps this is where our artistic concept of work breaks down. Kant disagrees, citing shoemaking as a kind of work that falls on the art side of the art science distinction. The implication is that any kind of work that involves indeterminacy in how to produce the object in question has an artistic element. So here author is trying to answer the question of the in the art science distinction not seem to relevant to the question of work. His author is trying to answer this question, that the art science distinction does not seem relevant to the question of work. But why not? So he's saying that by giving the examples of wire, composing the electrical wiring of a home can be taught by the rules in a way that composing a beautiful poem cannot be. That that the electric wiring of the home have the rules which a beautiful poem cannot be. And he gives the another example, citing shoemaking as a kind of work that falls on art side of the art scientist distinction. So what he trying to say by all these two examples, that the implication is that any kind of work that involves indeterminacy in how to produce the object in question has an artistic element where you have to question how to produce that element. That thing is called an art. So let's move into the next species. Consider Matthew Crawford's example of motorcycle mechanic in his essay Shop Class at Shoalcraft, 2006. A mechanic must check the condition of a starter clutch on a decrepit 50-year-old motorcycle. In order to do so, however, he must remove the engine's cover, which are fastened with screws that are script. Drilling out the screw risks damaging the engine. The factory service manual tells you to be systematic in eliminating variables. Craft for writes, but then they never take such factors into account. So here author is giving the example of motorcycle mechanic. What is trying to say that but what he says that a mechanic say that what is needed to he said that Matthew got an old motorcycle which is a 50-year-old, and he just go to the mechanics. He as a mechanics he know that what take it to work in a good condition. So he says that removing the engine cover which are fastened with screw that are stripped. Drilling out the screw risks damaging the engine, but the factory service manuals tell you to be systematic in eliminating variables. Kraft Ford writes, but they will never take such action into account. They say the factory manual says that do this, do not, but that thing is not actually happens. That he's trying to say that there is a difference between a technical, means scientific and artistic way, where the mechanic says that to do this you need to remove something, but manual says that if you are removing this then you are making that's damaging the engine, so you can't remove that. That's all for today. We will continue our video rest of the pieces tomorrow. As of now, have a great day. See you guys tomorrow.